Hi, welcome to the Bee's Business, or welcome back if you've been here before. Thank you for joining me in today's video, which is part of my children's literature review series. Through this series, I hope to help fellow educators and parents discover titles in children's literature that are inspirational, meaningful, educational, or a combination of these. To keep my reviews consistent, I follow the same 5, sometimes 6-step process each time I review a text. Today I am reviewing for you a text called Here We Are, Notes for Living on Planet Earth by Oliver Jeffers. To summarize this text in a minimal way, it's a great get-to-know-you guide for planet Earth. The main message of this text is let's get to know Earth, let's get you acquainted with what this world is like, and take care of this place. On to some of my favorite things about this text. If you've been watching any of my other book reviews, then you will know I appreciate facts, and this text is quite full of them. Oliver Jeffers does a really nice job of including facts in a fun and silly way. I think the little bits of humor that Oliver Jeffers sprinkles in around his facts is going to make them more memorable for the readers. For example, on one page that focuses on the sky, Oliver describes one of the sections of the atmosphere as the stratos thingy. And also on this page he says, sometimes the sky is blue, sometimes it's, not. I feel like the author is really letting his voice shine as he adds humor to these facts that he's including in this text. This text is dedicated to Oliver's son, Harland. This book was written in the first 2 months of your life as I tried to make sense of it all for you. These are the things I think you need to know. I feel like this dedication is important for me to point out with this text because I think it gives us a little bit of insight into the purpose of this text and why Oliver took the time to write it. And if you've been watching any of my other reviews, then you'll also know this. I really love it when a text and the pictures pair together to create the overall story, and we have that happening in this text. So here we see this figure and an image that looks a little bit like a baby in his arms. We go on throughout the text and we don't see that image again for a little while. And then on some of the last couple of pages we see that same image. For me, this feels like the story is coming full circle. And after I read that dedication, this scene made that much more sense to me. I feel like this is a representation of Oliver and his son Harland. On my initial read-through of this text, I didn't pay a lot of attention to the dedication or that small image on that title page. And I think this really made the book a little bit confusing for me because I made it to the end and that's where I paid attention to the image of what I feel like is Oliver and his son, and it didn't make a ton of sense to me. I thought, why do we all of a sudden have a specific character and this baby-looking character in his arms? And on my second read-through, I paid more attention to those other details that I had skipped the first time through, and it all made a whole lot more sense. And that's one of the things I love about reading a text through more than once. Each time you do, you learn something new. And that's a recommendation that I have when reading texts with children. When the opportunity presents, read it to them more than once, not necessarily back to back, but more than once before you move on to other texts. By doing this, children are going to notice additional things the second time that you read the story through. Another thing you've probably come to learn about me as a text reviewer is that I really appreciate when the dust jacket of a text differs from the actual cover of the text, and we have that happening here with this text. The dust jacket is very beautifully designed and I do appreciate it. When you remove the dust jacket, you find something extra interesting about this text. I appreciate the simple cover, but what I appreciate even more is the indentation of these little stars throughout this cover. If you're rubbing your fingers along this cover, you can feel the indentations. It's almost like the cover has been stamped to create these star shapes on there. This feels really fun to me because this isn't something I see texts do very often, so it's unique, which makes me gravitate toward it. Between the light blue cover and the playful feeling of these stamped in stars, it really adds to the impact of knowing this text was written by Oliver for his son. I enjoy that every page of this text is packed with facts, but as you're reading through it, you don't really notice that. You're not reading through it thinking, oh my goodness, this is such a fact-heavy text, and your brain isn't feeling oversaturated by these facts. Instead, they feel playful, and they're also presented in a non-linear fashion, and I think that this adds to the idea that you can take them in as you want and not feel overwhelmed by them. For example, both the inside cover and the front of the book, as well as the back, have facts about constellations. Just as you're opening up to the text, before you've really even gotten very far into it, you're seeing a replication of our solar system, and I love that the playful nature begins right here in the very first line. Our solar system, and in parentheses, one of millions, which is crossed out, billions, which is crossed out, and then trillions, which is not crossed out. It's emphasizing the fact that our solar system is one of trillions, and it's reminding the reader how large trillions are, because numbers are pretty big and can feel abstract for kids, and so if you're reading this text to younger children or students, millions and billions may not have much of an impact on them, but as you are reading along and you notice that millions is crossed out and then billions is crossed out, it is giving you that sense of, okay, this is a really big number. So even if you're reading it to a child who doesn't have a super strong number sense, it's still going to make some sense to them. The introduction feels very friendly. On the first page it reads, well, hello. Welcome to this planet. We call it Earth. It is the big globe floating in space on which we live. This story really is an example of the importance of spending some time on each page. If you just took the time to only read the sentences, then you would be missing a lot. For example, on this page alone, we are seeing comparisons between hot and cold, pointy, bumpy, flat, dry, hot, wet, and all of those things could be missed if you're not taking the time to really dive into the picture here. This is probably one of my favorite pages on the text. I love how detailed the ocean is and all of the different things that we are seeing underneath the water. Oliver really had me staring at this page for quite some time, checking out all of the littlest details. An example of another great fact included here on this page, it says, goes nearly 7 miles deep, we think. This page is absolutely full of information about the sky, space, constellations, Earth, weather patterns. We even have a page that is dedicated to a little bit of explanation about our body. This page is also fantastic. It feels very inclusive. People come in many shapes, sizes, and colors. We may all look different, act different, and sound different, but don't be fooled. We are all people. And just as people come in many different sizes, shapes, and colors, animals do too. As we're nearing the end of the text, this is a page that I really appreciate. Though we have come a long way, we haven't quite worked everything out, so there is plenty left for you to do. I appreciate this page so much because it's quite an encouraging page for the readers, reminding them that there are lots of things in this world that we haven't figured out, and you have a place here and you belong. And what a powerful message that is. Oliver even manages to pack in a message about how important it is to protect our Earth. Make sure you look after it, as it's all we've got. As you can tell, there are many things that I enjoy about this text. A very small bit of constructive criticism for this text, and it truly is small. At this stage in the story, we're talking about things here on Earth and how sometimes they can move slowly, but more often they move quickly. And on this page it says, more often though, they move quickly, so use your time well. It will be gone before you know it. When I first read through this text, that line on the second page bothered me a little bit, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to read it through again and we'll see what I think. And I read it through a second time, and that line was still catching me up. It just feels like a small dark moment in an otherwise happy and positive text. It feels a little bit out of place, and I'm wondering if the wording could have been different so that it didn't feel quite as negative or dark. True or not, the concept of your time being gone before you know it makes it sound like life is very fleeting, and it just creates this sense of urgency that I don't really enjoy. Overall, I very much enjoy this text and the message that it is sending to its readers. I feel that the story and the message are well thought out and well conveyed to the reader. Aside from that small bit of constructive criticism, I really enjoy everything else about this text. I'm going to give this text an overall rating of a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for joining me in today's review of Here We Are, Notes for Living on Planet Earth by Oliver Jeffers. As always, I welcome all constructive criticism about my review process. I'm always open to new ideas and making changes so that this review series is as beneficial to you as possible. I really appreciate you spending some time on my channel. I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!